I don't know if anybody's dancing with the stock markets. I don't even want to look. I don't want to know because I looked and I became a panicked, right? A panican?
A panic.
That's what he calls it. With more on this and everything going on in the world, let's welcome back to the program Ed Morrissey, managing editor for hotair.com. Good morning, Ed. How are you?
Good morning. I'm doing well. Great to be with you.
I bet you're keeping busy, huh?
It's always been it's been a slow news cycle for the last couple of months. I don't know what to say. Nothing to write about.
No,
I'm going to write a 1,000 word essay on dance hall days, though. I am absolutely going to do that.
That's funny. Okay, so let's start with tariffs and China. There doesn't seem to be any movement. We've had movement with people from Japan and South Korea are on their way here to negotiate tariffs with Trump. We already made deals with Israel and a number of countries, Vietnam, Taiwan. So what do you think is going to happen if you could look into your crystal ball with China?
Well, I think that this is really mostly aimed at China anyway. So I think this is exactly what Trump wants. He wants to force American manufacturers to relocate out of China and really probably out of the whole Eastern Rim there, because even relocating to places like Vietnam and Thailand hasn't really worked because what's happening is that most of the parts are still coming from China. And that's part of the cheating that Donald Trump's been talking about. But what he wants to put China on an economic back foot here. And that part of the tariff thing makes a lot of sense to me. I'm not a panican. I'm looking at the stock market. You know, I'm lightly invested in there because of 401ks and stuff like that. I mean, I'm not a trader, so I'm not on it every day. But, you know, there's two ways to lose money in the stock market, either by buying or selling. And if you're not doing either one of those two things, you're really not losing money yet. And I think that people need to not be looking at this thing on a day-to-day basis to make a decision on what is a long-term strategy. That being said, I'm still a skeptic on tariffs. I think that most of the people that we want on our side to combat China's economic influence, we might be alienating a little bit through these policies. So I'm hoping that in some ways they're going to be looking for negotiations with places like the EU and Vietnam, I think especially, if they can close down that China rehoming loop. But I'm not sure that there's really that big of a plan here. I think there are people in the Trump administration who think that they can replace the income tax with tariffs. And that's fine if you replace the income tax right up front. I mean, right now it just doesn't seem like they have a coherent strategy on this, and I think that that's part of what's making the market so nervous.
Right, because there was mixed messages coming out of the White House, you know, with Elon Musk and Peter Navarro, both on different pages about tariffs, saying, you know, we'll zero out tariffs with the EU on, you know, on the other side of the pond, and then Navarro saying, no, we're not negotiating this. So it was a bit of a mixed, muddled message. Some other things that happen, the SCOTUS pauses a judge's order to rehire 16,000 federal employees. What's going on there?
Not much. I mean, less than what it sounds.
Is this a win or what is it?
It's not even really much. It's mostly just a procedural pause. And first off, this is just, it's literally just a pause. Okay. And because there's another injunction in place out of Maryland that covers, I think, at least a good part of the same number of people. And this particular order is only talking about a subset of the people that were on the San Francisco TRO. I don't know how many of these people are not going to be brought back in. I think that right now it looks like a good portion of them are not impacted by the Supreme Court decision yesterday. And I think that this is sort of like looking at the stock market, right? You get an order from John Roberts and everybody goes, yay, it's a big win, when it doesn't really change things very much because the Supreme Court is treating these things very narrowly and really only in terms of procedure. And the same thing was true with what Pam Bondi said with the deportations, the Supreme Court action that was taken on deportations. All that really did was say, you have to have you have to allow these people to have a habeas action if they want to put a habeas action forward, and it has to be in the venue where they're being currently held rather than in Washington, D.C. That's not really much of a win. It's certainly, it's not a loss, but it's not really much of a win because those habeas actions, they can still challenge the Alien Enemies Act application in these habeas actions, and a federal court in Texas, which is where they're being held, could rule that it doesn't apply outside of a declared war. And so nothing much has really changed in either of those instances, and I think it's one of those things where you have to wait and see.
So I wanted to ask you his name is eluding me right now. The lawyer who was on Fox News all the time. What's his name for the Jonathan Turley?
Turley, yeah.
So Turley was saying that he does not think the habeas corpus issue, bringing them down and having them in front of the judge before deportation is going to stop. He thinks they'll get a cursory hearing and they'll still be out of here.
Right. Yes.
So
no, I think that's right. Yeah.
Okay. So the good news is they will be getting don't let the door hit you in the arse, get out of here, which is good, right? But we have these district judges, as you know, which are a massive problem. They're trying to get their, even had Elena Kagan, I think it was, saying that it was wrong that they were ruling outside of their district for things that were nationwide. So what's the solution? Is Congress going to make them, I've heard one of the proposals would be to make them not be able to do a countrywide ruling, just a district ruling? Is it to defund them, like others have thought about? What's the solution here?
Well, there's two ways that you can do this, right? Because the Constitution vests the judicial branch authority in the Supreme Court. So the Supreme Court can set rules. And they can do it two different ways. One is they can just promulgate rules that instruct district courts that they can't issue injunctions that apply outside their districts. Now, districts are large, right? I mean, there's I think 3 districts in California, for instance. I think there's a southern, central, and northern. I think there's 2 in New York. I mean, so districts are large. There's large footprints, but they're limited. So they could promulgate a rule that does that. They could reach a decision on one of these cases that explicitly says that district courts can't rule outside of it can't apply outside of their own district, and they have yet to do that. Now, they're going to have plenty of opportunities to do that in the next few weeks. They've already had opportunities to do that. They haven't taken that step yet. And then Congress could pass a law which requires that district court decisions only apply within the district that they're promulgated in. So there's a few different ways that you can approach that, but clearly I think both sides now are doing judge shopping on an industrial basis, and it's bad. It's corrosive to the idea of justice and jurisdiction, and either Congress or the Supreme Court is going to have to address that, and probably sooner rather than later.
I wanted to ask you, going back to China, they're considering, as a form of punishment, banning U.S. movies over the Trump tariffs.
Yeah,
I had no idea Minecraft did so well in China, grossing $140 million.
I think it grossed 140 overall globally, but I don't think it was all in China. But
okay.
But I mean, one interesting note on that is that Snow White only grossed 1.2 million in 3 weeks. They only got 1.2 million out of China.
Oh my gosh!
So Disney, that story is just that story is just the laugh. It's a laugh factory that keeps on pumping out the product. But I actually think that'd be better for Hollywood, because then they would stop writing movies to suck up to the CCP, which is what they do. I mean,
right. When we were kids, the enemy was always the Chinese. Now it's always Russians.
Well,
or people from Belarus or Romania.
Yeah, or Americans, right?
Right. Right. Republicans.
The Martian is a great example of this, right?
Okay.
It's a very good movie, right? Have you ever seen The Martian with Matt Damon?
I have not. Oh no, wait! I did see The Martian. Yes, I did.
Yeah.
I guess I did.
Yeah, it's a good
cute.
movie.
Yeah, it's good.
It's very good. But you notice that the Americans fail to rescue him, and they have to go to the Chinese, who then decide that they're going to altruistically unveil this secret rocket program because it's just the right thing to do in order to rescue the poor American off of Mars. They write these things. They write these movies to make the Chinese look good. 2012 was an even more absurd example of that, just because 2012 was a terrible movie. It's one of the best It's one of the most fun bad movies you'll ever watch.
Really?
2012. Oh,
Okay.
it is so bad.
What was the premise of that movie?
That was the Mayan calendar. You remember the whole thing that the Mayan calendar
that's
was
right.
predicting?
Yes, the end of times.
The end of times,
Yep.
yeah. And so it turns, I think it was Roland Emmerich did that movie. And again, it's the Chinese that save humanity by building the big boats. And I mean, it's just, they write movies to cater to Chinese audiences, and really to cater to the Chinese Communist Party in order to access the market there. And so, as far as I'm concerned, if China starts blocking Hollywood movies, it might be the best thing to happen to Hollywood in a long time, because they'll stop writing these things to suck up to the Chinese Communist Party. I'll be very happy if that happens. But so far, they haven't done that. It's probably because China doesn't really produce very good films on its own.
But let's talk about Snow White, though, because you did write an article, Mirror, Mirror on the Wall, who's the fairest film of all. I feel bad for the production staff. I feel bad for people in hair and makeup and costume design and the editors, people that are not woke, like this actress was, who completely destroyed the film pretty much before it even came out.
Yes.
Yeah, first off, a lot of those people who were working on this film have already been paid, right? And I mean, so the problem is that when films lose hundreds of millions of dollars of money, there's films that won't get made because the investment money won't be there. So it's the craft services people, it's the crew people, it's the other secondary industries around the entertainment industry in Hollywood that are going to suffer for that. And yes, I mean, I think, and that was the point of the son of one of the producers who went public on, I believe it was Twitter,
that's right.
blasting Rachel Zegler because she's damaging a lot of other people's livelihoods by shooting her mouth off about stuff that had nothing to do with the film. And I struggle to blame this all on Rachel Zegler, because this film was written for that purpose in mind, right? I mean, it was written to be a socialist rethinking of Snow White, in which the fairest meant the most redistributive of them all, and they cast her in that role, and she was very enthusiastic about that. And she's, at the time, I think when she started shooting off her mouth, she was 21. I think she's 23 now. I mean, I wouldn't say she's a kid. She made, she's obviously getting, $1 million paychecks, or maybe more than that, for this. But she's part of a culture that produces this dreck, right?
Well, did you see the movie?
No.
Well, you wrote an article and you didn't see the movie.
I never reviewed the movie.
I know you were.
Yeah.
Does one need to see it?
No, I mean, I kind of want to see it, but
you should.
They're computer-generated dwarfs, which makes me mad.
Well, I mean, if you look at the trailer itself, I mean, the CGI is so poorly done, it's hard to believe it's Disney. I would say that Who Framed Roger Rabbit does a better overlay of animation on live action than what I saw in those trailers. And from other reviews, what the other critics are saying is that it looks terrible.
Right.
Did you guys hear that the live action movie Tangled has been canceled, put on hold, canceled because of this? And they had a script written, they had a director, and they literally killed it because of this. Yeah,
they have a live action Lilo and Stitch that's already done. It's going to come out later this year, and I think that Disney's looking at this, and because that live action remakes of animated films is the profits have gone down significantly over time on that, and I think Disney's realizing that this is not a sustainable strategy. But I love Tangled. I love the original Tangled, which was what I saw it with my granddaughter. So maybe 10 years ago. I'm just guessing off the top of my head. Maybe a little bit longer ago than that. I thought it was a beautiful film, really well done. But I can't imagine doing that in live action. And you need actually less animation, maybe just the hair. Everything else, I don't recall there being a tremendous amount of magical elements other than the hair and Mother Gothel. So I don't know that you'd need a bunch of CGI for that. But yeah, I mean, what's the point of doing live action remakes anyway, other than to just cash in on an IP by simply copying it? It's kind of an empty exercise, and they don't do it well. It looks weird.
All right. So Ed Morrissey, what are you working on for today? Anything you'd like to tease?
Sure. I don't know if you noticed this or heard about this yet, but New Mexico's Democrat Governor Michelle Lujan Grisham has called out the National Guard to deal with the fentanyl crisis.
Oh, so she's just catching on to this?
Suddenly.
Yeah, but you won't believe she's deploying the National
Oh my
Guard
gosh,
to deal with this.
we are.
So stay tuned on that. That's coming up at Hot Air a little bit later.
Oh, God, it's such a tease. So hotair.com, Ed Morrissey, now managing editor for hotair.com. Congratulations on your
Thank you.
promotion.
Appreciate
And you
that.
can follow him on social media at Ed Morrissey. Ed, thanks so much for joining us. Have a great day.
Well, thanks for having me.
Thank you. And he joined us on our turnkey.pro answer line.
The stories you need to know to start your day. This is Chicago's Morning Answer on AM 560. The Answer.
It's tax season. By now, we're all a bit tired of numbers, but here's one you need to hear. $16.5 billion. That's how much money in refunds the IRS flagged for possible identity fraud last year. Now, here's a good number, $100 million. That's how many data points LifeLock monitors every second. If your identity's stolen, they'll fix it guaranteed. Save up to 40% in your first year with promo code CLAY. Visit LifeLock.com. That's LifeLock.com, promo code CLAY. Terms apply.
Trust and Will knows that we'll all eventually need a will. How about right now? Trust and Will makes creating your will easy, like while you're lounging on the couch easy. Trust and Will is designed by attorneys but customized by you, and all documents are state-specific and secure. Find your plan at trustandwill.com and use offer code RADIO now for 20% off. That's trustandwill.com, offer code RADIO. Trust and Will is an online estate planning service. Visit trustandwill.com for details.
The fight